NASA designs near light speed engine that breaks the laws of physics. This is near light speed. Tesla Telegraph reports on Collective Spark. NASA designs near light speed engine that breaks the laws of physics. An engine idea that can accelerate to 99% of the speed of light, all without the need for propellant. Isn't that beautiful? Maybe we can use this type of science on Earth so that we can have free energy. Anyway, that may sound like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's not. This is exactly what one of NASA's scientists engineers is developing, and it promises to break the laws of physics. How will these engines be developed? If it's going to work without propellant, then what will be its fuel? And most importantly, will a human be able to travel in a vehicle with such an engine as its thruster? Well, we'll find out in just a second. When it comes to space, we have a problem with our human need to travel everywhere and observe everything. This is a major issue. It is, after all, space, and it's far too large. Even if we travel at the greatest speed permitted by the universe, it would take us years to reach our nearest neighboring star. Another human urge is to discover answers to large challenges. In his leisure time, NASA engineer David Burns has been doing just that. He's developed an engine idea that he claims can accelerate to 99% of the speed of light, all without the need for propellant. He's uploaded it to NASA's technical report server under the title Helical Engine, and it works on paper by taking advantage of how mass may change at relativistic speed, those near to the speed of light in a vacuum. It has not yet been reviewed by a professional. Understandably, this article has sparked interest compared to that witnessed in the early days of the EM, the electromagnetic drive. Yes, there have been some stories suggesting that the engine may break the rules of physics, quote unquote. But for a bit of context, it's important to know that the aforementioned EM drive was NASA's first foray into the idea of actually trying to build an engine capable of faster than light travel. So what exactly is EM drive at all? First introduced by Roger Scheuer, British chartered electrical engineer with 48 years experience in space and defense industries. In 2001, EM drive is a radio frequency resonant activity thruster, idea with possible uses as a spaceship thruster. It's claimed to create thrust by internally reflecting microwaves in violation of the law of conservation of momentum and other physical principles. The media has frequently referred to the gadget as the impossible drive. Explanations for how the EM drive could function go beyond the limits of known physics. Perhaps it's interacting with space quantum times vacuum energy, despite the fact that space quantum times vacuum energy does not enable anything to push off of it. Perhaps our notion of momentum has been shattered. Perhaps it's brand new physics as announced by the EM drive tests. There is no official design for this device, and neither of the persons who claim to have developed it has committed to explaining how it may function as a thruster or what elements constitute it, making it impossible to determine whether a particular object is an example of such a device. NASA's Advanced Propulsion Physics Laboratory reported observing a small apparent thrust from one such test in 2006, a result that has not since been replicated. Subsequent studies indicated that the thrust observed was a measurement error caused by interactions with the Earth's magnetic field or thermal gradients. In March of 2021, scientists from the Technical University of Dresden published 3 papers explaining that it was a total fluke. The thrust was explained by outside forces. As for the helical engine, while it is intriguing, it's unlikely to defy the laws of physics anytime soon despite the claims. Although it has been met with skepticism from some quarters, Burns believes his concept is worth pursuing. He says, "I'm comfortable with throwing it out there. If someone says it doesn't work, I'll be the first to say it was worth a shot," he says. And how did he say it's going to work? Well, Burns depicts a box with a weight inside strung on a line and spring at either end, bouncing the weight back and forth as a thought experiment to demonstrate his notion. In a vacuum, such as space, this would jiggle the entire box with the weight appearing to remain motionless, much like a GIF stabilizing around the weight. Overall, the box would continue to wiggle in the same location. However, if the weight's mass increased in only one direction, it would create a stronger push in that direction, hence thrust. What do we think? We think this should not be entirely feasible, according to the concept of momentum conservation, which states that the momentum of a system remains constant in the absence of any external influences. Einstein's theory of special relativity says that objects gain mass as they are driven towards the speed of light, an effect that must be accounted for in particle accelerators. In fact, a simplistic implementation of Berne's concept would be to replace the ring with a circular particle accelerator in which ions are swiftly accelerated to relativistic speeds during one stroke and decelerated during the other stroke. But Burns thinks it would make more sense to ditch the box and rod and employ the particle accelerator for the lateral as well as circular movement, in which case the accelerator would need to be shaped like a helix. However, there is a particular relativity flaw. Objects gain mass when they approach the speed of light according to special relativity. So if the weight is replaced with ions and the box with a loop, the ions can potentially move quicker at one end of the loop and slower at the other. Berne's drive, on the other hand, is not a single closed loop. It's helical, like a stretched out spring, which is why it's called a helical engine. The engine accelerates ions confined in a loop to moderate relativistic speeds and then varies their velocity to make slight changes to their mass. The engine then moves ions back and forth along the direction of travel to produce thrust, he says. And he says the engine has no moving parts other than ions traveling in a vacuum line trapped inside electric and magnetic fields. The helical chamber would have to be rather huge, according to the new scientist. To be accurate, it is 200 meters, which is approximately 656 feet long, and 12 meters, which is approximately 40 feet in diameter. It would also require 165 megawatts of energy to produce 1 Newton of thrust. That is the force necessary to accelerate a kilogram of mass per second squared, which is comparable to a power plant. Proposals for propulsion-free vehicles like helical are not exactly new, though. Robert Cook, a U.S. inventor, patented an engine in the late 1970s that allegedly turned centrifugal energy into linear motion. Then, in the early 2000s, British inventor Roger Scheuer suggested the previously mentioned EM drive, claiming that the trapped microwaves might be converted into thrust. Neither notion has been satisfactorily proved, and both are commonly considered to be impossible owing to a breach of a fundamental physics rule, the conservation of momentum. Again, physicists from the Technical University of Dresden who performed tests on the EM drive believe the helical engine will probably suffer the same problems. They said, all inertial propulsion systems, to my knowledge, never worked in a friction-free environment, one of them said. This machine makes use of special relativity, unlike the others, which complicates the picture, he says, but unfortunately there is always action-reaction. Burns has worked on his idea in secret without the support of NASA, and he admits that it is enormously inefficient. He claims, however, that there is a possibility to capture most of the energy that the accelerator loses through heat and radiation. He also offers techniques to conserve momentum, such as the spin of the propelled ions. I know that it risks being right up there with EM drive and cold fusion, he says, but you have to be prepared to be embarrassed. It's very difficult to invent something that is new under the sun and actually works, he says. As you can see, the science is still rather spotty. It's probably where we tell you that your skepticism is rather justified, but don't let it fool you. With the rate at which aerospace technology is advancing, we should not be surprised if a faster-than-light capable engine does appear in the future. When that happens, though, all of our science fiction fantasies will be on a definite fast track to becoming science fact. Is NASA building a light-speed engine? There are too many rumors regarding this engine. Even some authorized websites have also published articles about it, and NASA engineers also claim that this new engine will break the laws of physics. So what is the name of NASA's new engine that breaks the laws of physics? The name of the engine is helical engine. And how fast is NASA's helical engine? NASA's engineers claim the engine can take astronauts to Mars in less than 13 minutes. What is the name of the scientist who present the concept of helical engine? NASA scientist Dr. David Burns. And does the engine use fuel? Dr. David Burns said the new rocket engine can reach close to the speed of light without using any fuel. Instead, it will use high-tech particle accelerators. And what's the exact speed of NASA's new engine? Dr. Burns says the engine can reach around 297 million meters per second. How much thrust can it produce? According to Burns, the engine is capable of producing a thrust of up to 99% the speed of light without breaking Einstein's theory of relativity. And what will the size of the engine be? Dr. Burns says it will have about 200 meters long, 12 meters wide, 200 meters, about 600 feet, and to work properly. And this is on Collective Spark by Tesla Telegraph. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.